This is a road test for a Honda Accord. This is RE08RZZ. The car's a EX diesel, top of the range car. Mileage at the start of this brief road test is 54,733 miles. The reason we do the road tests, as I make clear in all of them, is we're now selling to customers from much further afield due to the internet. Certainly the whole of the UK and also a lot of Europe now as well. We want people to see the cars in operation prior to coming to see us. That way, if there's any issues with the car, we can, and we do, tell you all about them. So if there's any issues, as I said, we can let you know. And also the roads that I'm doing them on are just outside our premises, and so the road test should be representative of obviously what you should feel when you come and drive the car yourself. Try and do it in sort of similar kind of order to do it yourself. So starting with the engine of the car, obviously a 2.2 CTDi diesel engine, very low mileage one, very well looked after, and about as smooth a one as I've ever driven. Starts absolutely first turn of the key, no noises or whines or moans from cold at all, no vibrations. Pulls incredibly quietly and very sweetly and very, very, very smoothly. It is a beautiful, beautiful example of one of these engines. Great units, proved wonderfully reliable, hugely long lasting. They can cover massive mileages with regular maintenance, and in terms of fuel economy, obviously fuel economy is down to sort of how you drive the car clearly, but you can get 50 to the gallon very easily and comfortably driven normally if you use the torque of the engine, change it up relatively early. You can get, also we've got customers getting much, much, much more than that, but obviously if you're doing pure town driving or you're particularly kind of leaden footed, then you'd be sort of dropping into the 40s, but 50s should be a relatively conservative claim. Engine, incidentally, there's no warning lights on the dashboard at all, so relating to the engine or anything else. Engine then runs through clutch into the gearbox. Clutch on the car, utterly smooth and squeak and clicky free from the clutch pedal. Whether the clutch is in or out, doesn't make any difference. The engine note doesn't change, there's no vibrations, nothing at all. Bite point on the clutch, absolutely perfect. Bites beautifully. Actuation rather is absolutely spot on. Being a later model Accord, benefits from the 6-speed gearbox, which is another wonderful, wonderful Honda gearbox. We've never ever touched a manual gearbox on a Honda Accord, not once in 15 years of being independent, and these are very tough indeed. As an example of one, I can't detect an ounce of wear in it anywhere. Not just the gear lever, the leather surround, but in the linkage itself. And Honda do this so well. The vast majority of cars, if not pretty much all of the front wheel drive modern car, will use cables going from the gear lever through to the gearbox at the front. And unfortunately it does mean on some cars you find that the linkage can be a little bit vague, a little bit sloppy, a little bit, that you can sort of miss gears quite easily. This just feels like it's bolted straight into the gearbox. It's got a lovely, sweet action to it, very defined. You know exactly which gear you're going in, and the quality of the synchro mesh is absolutely brilliant on them. It's neither notchy nor slick, horribly slick, where you don't feel anything. You feel it change the gear, but it's just got this just brilliant action to it, which you'll appreciate more and more and more the more you drive the car over the years. That it is a super gearbox. So in terms of engine, gearbox and clutch, absolutely all spot on. As I'm driving, it's tracking bullet straight, no vibrations in the steering wheel at all. Steering of the car feels absolutely rock solid. It's lovely. It's got no wear in it anywhere at all. More of the steering in a second, but I'll talk a bit more about that because it is a wonderful system. I love this generation Accord. Chassis of the car, probably the best front wheel drive car in the marketplace at its time. You could say that something like a BMW 3 Series by dint of real drive is more dynamic, which it it is, you know, there's no two ways about it, but they're harder riding, they're not as smooth, and they require a lot of money to keep them that way. You know, when they go out of kilter, they lose their balance and chew their tyres up. The Honda is wonderfully precise, whether just tootling around or if you're inclined to sort of drive in a more spirited way. You know, you get, you know, a really lovely dynamic drive, and it's just so wonderfully accurate. But suspension, smooth, quiet, no noises, no clonks, no bangs, nothing. It just feels just exactly like it did when it came off the production line. Really wonderful. As I'm also driving along at speed, just listening out for kind of wind noise that really shouldn't be there, and by that I mean, where have you got a you know, someone's accidentally skagged a door seal, or windscreen's not been fitted quite right, you might get a really annoying wind hiss, especially in a car as quiet as this. But there's nothing at all. Everything's exactly as it should be, and it's a very quiet and subdued car to drive in. What I'll do in a second, I'm just going to turn left up what is a notoriously bumpy road, so if there are any imperfections, it shows up on that, and I'll give the brakes a bit of a stamp as well, just to check those in a second as well. Price board going flying, but brakes absolutely spot on. Yeah, the pedals right towards the top. So I just grabbed the price board there a second. There we go. The brakes lovely and solid, no pulsing, no juddering, no noises. Pulls up dead square. Feel very nice and solid indeed. It's just past an MOT, so that, you know, it doesn't come as any great surprise in all honesty, but it's just nice to see it and feel it in the flesh. Checking the cruise control function now. That's all working absolutely perfectly. So change the speed you go by accelerating and using the button there, or decelerating there, and turning it off. So that's all absolutely spot on. Coming to the interior of the car, all in fabulous order. Don't fall for, there's a lot of people advertising these. EX does not come standard with sat-nav. It never was a standard feature. It was an option, and I've seen a few advertised with it when they actually haven't got it, so just be careful. As you can see here, sat-nav's all working absolutely perfectly. The interior of the car is in absolutely beautiful condition. It just is so clean and fresh. Every switch, every control, it's got a lovely Honda action to it. Very high quality. It feels like it's built like a tank. You know, there's not a shudder or a squeak or a buzz from any of the trim. I mean, they are genuinely beautifully made cars. But the climate control pumps out absolutely. I've just turned the temperature down a fraction. I checked it earlier, but I know it's all working beautifully. And that's absolutely ice cold air coming out of there. Just put the heated seats on. I'll report back to that in a second. I know my business partner drove it and he had them on, so it was just to double check it myself. But it's all in very nice order. Later version, so it's got this nice sort of silver type trim or carbon fibre effect. Look down the middle there. They're very nicely done. Binnacle car, typical Honda, beautifully clear and legible dials. Temperature gauge showing a third of the way up, which is exactly the right operating temperature for a Honda car, whether it's a diesel or petrol or otherwise. On these later versions, get an information display to give you things like, you know, a trip meter, fuel economy. Currently, the heated seats kicked in straight away, so that's working very effectively indeed. You get auto lights and auto wipes on this age of car as well. Steering wheel, again, just feels like new in my hand. There's no wear on the leather at all. Nice diameter, little recesses there, so hand in the the given or approved driving position there. And obviously you've got your multifunction stuff on it, so you've got audio top left, cruise control, as you've seen, top right, hands-free functions down there, and information display controls there. But every button I pressed has worked perfectly and beautifully, actually. So, but yeah, to come back to the drive of the car, really, it's, you know, there's most people that put these on the shopping lists will be looking at cars probably like sort of VW Passat, Audi A4, Merc C-Class, BMW 3 Series possibly, maybe sort of Toyota Avensis and Nissan or whatever. Where these have kind of got a niche of their own is they're far less troublesome than most. We have very, very, very few issues with the cords, you know, all bar none really, but you know that even Honda's going to occasionally go wrong, but it's the lack of frequency and the lack of seriousness of them, really. You know, they're beautifully made cars, wonderfully, wonderfully reliable, but you know, that'd be all fine and dandy if it was, you know, as dull as ditch water to drive, but it isn't. It's, you know, this is where I still rate this chassis with the steering and the suspension on it as the best Honda made. There's something just totally right about it, from the quality of the shock absorption, the bump absorption, which is just beautifully controlled and damped, and it feels very expensive. You know, the way it controls even the sharper ridges, it doesn't clatter and bang, it rides them really, really well, but it doesn't lose any composure, any accuracy from the chassis either. And what, you know, isn't always a given is that the steering and the chassis work in harmony. Sometimes you can have a steering system like Alphas used to do. The chassis was too soft for the steering. The steering was too sharp, too quick, which was lovely and dynamic, but made them horribly nervous over at higher speeds. These, you know, we're going over crests and bumps and different contours and cambers. No matter what speed, they just drive wonderfully well and with total compliance and surety. And the steering is key to that, because it's just got this lovely old-fashioned hydraulic power steering, beautifully weighted, no kind of kickback to the steering, but it gives you information. It's quick enough to be dynamic, it's not so quick to be scary, but it just works with the chassis beautifully. So as you come down now, if I turn the wheel, the car turns in, the chassis goes with it, all as one beautiful fluid motion, and it's a wonderful thing to sense and feel. But the point of the test drive is really just to show the car in operation, and if there was any issues with it, I would tell you, and I do. I did a couple this morning where there were a couple of little things on the cars which are pointed out, but on this car I can't find a thing. You'll be driving one of the very, very, very best examples of this type of car, certainly mechanically, that you'll see anywhere. Obviously, if I've missed anything out on the test drive that, you know, I should have mentioned, I apologise, but please, you know, do give us a call, and I'd be more than happy to go through any details that you may need to know about.